Well, all right. How y'all doing this morning? It's your girl, BeeSparrow, BuzzzTweet Talk Radio. It is 3:51 a.m. But you are listening to the No Audience Podcast. This is, again, the No Audience Podcast. BuzzTweet Talk Radio do not own copyright for this copyrighted material, but under Section 107 United States Copyright Office, Copyright Act 1976, this video, the music and content it contains is for education and or entertainment purposes only.
All right, I know people have been sitting there, but I gotta bring this queen up here. BeeSparrow. BeeSparrow. I'll just keep my eye on that sparrow sitting over there with me. Come on in. What's up, BeeSparrow?
I can't call it. Yeah, I can't call it. It's your girl, BeeSparrow, BuzzTweet Talk Radio. I got my co-host from the other room with me. Only we in the same room, but he's still the co-host from the other room. Y'all give it up for Jules Sparrow. Oh, y'all say, what is she doing going live 4 o'clock in the morning? Well, that's what time I get up. It's actually 3:53 a.m. While I'm getting up, the co-host about to go to bed. So I just felt like going live and, got to get my No Audience Podcast going on. I know y'all ain't listening. That's the great thing about it. Y'all not listening. I can say and do anything that I want because this is the No Audience Podcast. Well, y'all know everybody's still talking about Kevin Samuels on YouTube. I mean, so they had his memorial one day, then they showed the funeral yesterday, and wow, like this is really a big thing for some YouTubers. They're putting their godfather to rest, and we have been talking about him for weeks, ever since his death. I mean, people that don't normally talk about him, such as myself. We just can't get enough of that old ugly ass Kevin Samuels, y'all. I'm sorry. I don't mean to speak bad of the dead, but I'm speaking about the one that was living. He was not a nice guy, y'all. I'm sorry, he was not a nice guy. You know what? He reminded me of somebody that ran home from school every day. Somebody was always after him. He and the people that followed him, it just seemed like they were bullied. And from kindergarten on up to college. Oh, that's a mess. That's a mess. Okay, so let me go on over here to this Facebook group where the news articles are. Oh, oh, y'all heard about the tornado in Michigan, right? Caused catastrophic damages. And this is one dead, yeah, and more than 40 injured. And this is a predominantly white neighborhood, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I don't know whether that make a difference or not, but you hardly ever hear of tornadoes going through black neighborhoods. So, according to CNN, a tornado quickly moved through the town of Gaylord in the northern lower peninsula of Michigan Friday afternoon, leaving one person dead and 43 injured. Lieutenant, you said last time it was what?
Last time when I first read about it was 40.
Okay, now it's 43. Lieutenant Jim Gorno of the Michigan Department of Natural Resources described the scene in the area as being catastrophic. Wow, catastrophic. That's a pretty big word. So, he said cars was flipped over and structures destroyed. Munson Healthcare spokesperson Brian Lawson, no relation, told CNN 23 injured patients were taken to Memorial Hospital, Otsego Memorial Hospital, and 12 to Gaylord Hospital. 8 people were treated at other hospitals outside Munson system. Michigan State Police said the number of injured is 44. The city is under a curfew until 8 a.m., officials said. The tornado hit the area about 3:48 p.m., weather officials said. What'd you say?
I said it took me one more since you've been reading it.
It is a busy downtown area, and it went right through it, Gorno told CNN. We aren't used to it up here, he said. We don't have sirens like in other parts of the country. According to the state's website, Michigan averages just 15 tornadoes per year. Gaylord council member Jordan Ari said some establishments and businesses in the area now look like they'd never been there. The town is devastated, said Ari, adding he is confident that his community will be able to come together and rebuild. The council member's brother, Gabe Ari, was driving home when the tornado hit. By the time he made it to his street, he saw it had been blocked off. The 25-year-old then parked his car across the street before making his way home on foot. When I first arrived, there was debris in the front and backyard, he said, adding cars belonging to his neighbors were also destroyed. The building directly to the west of us, their whole roof blew onto our property. Witnesses describes seeing and hearing the twister. Video taken by Gaylord resident Brandon Smith shows debris being tossed in the air after the tornado touched down. Smith said he received a tornado alert on his phone, and he went outside to see where it was. He went looking for the tornado. Like he a tornado hunter. I looked outside and didn't see too much going on, and minutes after that alert went off, I looked over the other side of the house, and that's when I saw it coming over the trees, he said. Smith, who estimates he was maybe a quarter of a mile from the tornado, described it sounding like a freight train. Can you imagine a freight train? Well, that was thunder. I got to get a freight train sound. Is it too soon to be playing thunder? But anyway, Uh, he also said it sounded like an air compressor going off in the garage. I imagine it was deafening for those in its path, he said, or deafening for those in its path. We're used to snow, and that doesn't bother us, but to see that type of weather just shocked everyone, Smith said. See, I knew it was a predominantly white town. Black people don't do snow. Mm-mm. To be standing outside of my house, to see it in person was just unbelievable. I was in shock and in awe. I was thinking, holy cow, it's right in front of my face, he added. Now the governor is pledging for help, or the governor pledges to help. National Weather Service meteorologist Sean Christensen told CNN the twister hit west of the city center near Interstate 75 and moved northeast. Governor Gretchen Whitmer said her heart goes out to the people impacted by the storm. To the entire Gaylord community, Michigan is with you. We will do what it takes to rebuild, she tweeted. About 35% of utility customers in Otsego County, which includes Gaylord, were experiencing an electricity outage Friday afternoon, according to the tracking website poweroutage.us. About 25,000 people live in Gaylord and Otsego County. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's what it looked like to me. Otsego, 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 anyway, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. The village is about 235 miles north of Detroit. So, like I said, you rarely hear of any tornadoes hitting the hood. So, I'm almost sure that this is a predominantly white neighborhood. Look, this man cashes out pennies he saved for 45 years. A man walked into a bank. Sounds like a beginning of a joke, right? But it isn't. I mean, you will be laughing at the end of this story when you understand how this man walked out of the bank. At first glance, he seemed like any other customer at the bank. That was until you saw the dolly he was rolling around with him. Even for the most experienced bank employees, the man was an unusual sight. As he pulled the squeaky dolly up to the counter, all eyes followed him and his luggage full of treasures. The woman at the counter stared at the man and at the content in disbelief. He had been collecting pennies for 45 years and finally wanted to know their worth. 45 years. Now this article says, before we delve into the mystery of the pennies, it's important to introduce you to the man behind it all. Otha Anders was 73 years old and has spent most of his life as a lawyer supervisor on the Jackson School Board. His job was to watch over suspended children who seemed to love him. Anders loved his job and was good at it too. He was known around town as a family man with a supportive wife and loving children. Despite all his virtues, he had a little hobby that was considered quite unusual. Was it a hobby or was it an obsession though? Because some people collect stamps and some collect art, but Anders was interested in collecting lost pennies. Initially, he started collecting them just for fun. However, as his penny collection grew, his hobby turned into a raging obsession. According to Anders, spotting a dropped penny was a small gift from God that reminded him to be grateful. He also added that on many days when he forgot to pray, he would find a lost penny that would remind him that God was looking after him. Wow, that's cute. Find a penny, pick it up. All day long you'll have good luck. That's what they used to say. Anyway, everyone has heard of the saying that people can wish on a penny for whatever their heart desires. Anders' method was a bit different. He believed in praying on a penny. While he had always been deeply religious, his faith just grew stronger with the passage of time. In fact, it was his faith that started his whole penny obsession. The lost pennies were a divine gift that God just threw in his lap. Who knew that Anders would one day be the proud owner of countless such gifts? Of course, you know this is a brother. Of course, this is a brother. Let me check and make sure that my mic is still on, because y'all know I will do a whole show with this mic slam off. I know it's true. It's true. So anyway, back to this article, The Fruits of Devotion. No matter how devoted you may be to your hobbies, it's hard to be consistent for the long haul. Since the very first time Anders picked up a penny, he remained devoted to his hobby. He will never miss a lost penny. I'm telling you, I need to start picking up every penny that I see. For real. Soon enough, all of pennies was growing, and Anders was getting more and more obsessed with his new hobby. He got so involved in it that he started saving every penny he got. Now he was no longer simply collecting lost pennies, but saving up all pennies he could find. Wasn't there a penny shortage one time? I believe there was. Now we know why. It got to the point that whenever Anders bought something, he made sure he got at least 3 to 4 pennies as change. At first, it was a quirky habit that everyone found a bit strange. As time went on, Anders showed no sign of stopping.
For how long?
43 years.
Wow.
His loved ones got used to his odd habits, and it became a part of his personality. No one knew when he would stop collecting pennies and what exactly he would do with his little treasure.
What we nicknamed Penny?
Perhaps even Anders himself wasn't aware of the staggering amount he had collected. And I'm trying to, anyway, this article keeps going on and on and on. I guess I have to read the whole thing before I find out how much he actually collected. And this was 45 years, not 43. Anders was stubborn when it came to collecting habits. He would rather break $1 than spend one of his precious pennies. One day, the students he supervised found out about his odd little habits. Since the students loved him, they wanted to do something to help him out. They often showed up to class with a bunch of pennies for Anders. Instead of simply taking the generous gifts, Anders made a strict policy. He would never accept a penny from anyone without due compensation. Fast forward 45 years and Anders had filled up 15 of his 5-gallon water jugs. Imagine that. 15 huge jugs filled to the brim with pennies. It's quite an amazing feat when you realize Anders spent 4 decades collecting pennies. In the end, The pennies were too many to count. According to Anders' estimate, the jars contained thousands of pennies. In reality, it was hard to guess the accurate amount, as even Anders had lost track of it a long time ago. Finally, he decided it was time to find out the worth of all of his pennies. Anders had been collecting the pennies for so long, it had become almost a second nature to him. When he had acquired around 75 gallons full of pennies, his collection abruptly came to an end. It was up to Anders. He would have continued saving pennies. If it was up to Anders, he would have continued saving pennies forever. Unfortunately, some unforeseen circumstances forced him to finally take his treasures to the bank for evaluation. The problem was so severe that it left him devastated and in need of some emergency money. Now, if this ain't emergency, I don't know what is. Since Anders' hobby was tied to his faith, it was difficult for him to let go of his collection. All the pennies were proof of the gifts God had bestowed upon him during all of these years. However, life can be quite unpredictable, and Anders had no way of knowing what it would throw at him. Anders hadn't counted the pennies, but he knew they were worth a small fortune. That's why he had covered the collection under his house insurance. When he tried renewing insurance, the providers turned him away. No matter where he went, insurance providers refused to cover his penny collection. In the end, he settled for the home insurance that didn't cover the collection. This meant that he would have to finally let go of his precious pennies. Anders was hopeful that he had created a small fortune for himself in the form of pennies. He remembered reading about a man whose coin collection had resulted in a fortune. Only the bank could tell him what his years of hard work were actually worth. Come on, article, let's get to it. If Anders was lucky, his collection would contain millions of pennies, millions of dollars. While his pennies were mostly modern, he hoped for the best. It wasn't out of the realm of possibility after all. The exact same thing had happened to the man who owned a 1943 S. Lincoln wheat penny. The coin's value has skyrocketed over the years. And was meant to grow even more. It seemed that time only made such coins more valuable. Who knew what those gallons of pennies contained, honey? Y'all listening to this? Find a penny, pick it up. All day long, you'll have good luck, honey. Yes, honey. Y'all better start saving those pennies. Y'all better start saving them. The article goes on to say there are some commodities and assets which only become more valuable with time. That's why time is known as the most valuable commodity. Unfortunately, that's not true for all kinds of coins. In fact, you have to be quite lucky to get a hold of something truly valuable. How can you spot a coin that's worth something? Well, simply look for ones made out of precious metals like platinum, gold, silver, or copper. While the values of these coins may fluctuate, they generally increase over time. Mm. Come on, article. Let's get to it now. Wait, is that it? They didn't tell me how much. Come on, y'all. Wait a minute. This article. Wait, this some bull. Hold up. Did I skip something? This article did not tell me how much this man's penny collection was worth. Well, it started out where he went into the bank. I went through all of this. Wait a minute, y'all. Oh, so while some coins only increase in value, others are prone to decline. These coins others are prone to decline. See, I'm getting frustrated now because it's making me read all of this. And I don't even know. Let me see how much time I got. Podcast might have cut off. 18 minutes. Let me see now. Wait a minute now. These coins are ones that are made out of basic metals like aluminum. If these coins are no longer government issued, they lose their value even further. Excuse me. So the question remains, was Anders sitting on a gold mine, or was his collection full of coins with depreciating value? Since his coins were pretty modern, there was a thin chance of him having a truly valuable one. But perhaps the sheer volume of pennies will increase his chances. To cash out all his pennies, Anders needed to get his entire collection to the Ruston Original Bank located in Ruston, L.A. or Louisiana. I think that's Louisiana. Since there were so many jugs full of coins, Anders needed some help with his important mission. Some of his good friends volunteered to help him move the 5-gallon water jugs into the truck. They also helped him get them into the bank. Surprisingly, they were a lot heavier than anyone had thought. And there were 15 whole jugs to transport. 15 jugs. What they say, 75 gallons? As Anders hauled all his water jugs inside the bank one by one, people started taking notice. The bankers were flabbergasted to see it all unfold before their very eyes. You didn't see an old man bringing 15 water jugs full of pennies to the bank every day. Judging by the weird looks he was getting, Anders was afraid they'd tell him to take his penny collection elsewhere. Bringing all these pennies to the bank had been no easy feat, and he would have hated to do it again. As he approached the surprised clerk behind the desk, all she could manage to ask was, "How many are they?" Woo! We getting somewhere. According to Vice President Jenny Cole, Anders' appearance turned an ordinary day at the bank into quite an eventful one. The first question thrown at Anders was about the number of pennies he had. This was a difficult question that even Anders didn't have the good answer to. He told the clerk that he wasn't sure, but he guessed that it amounted to 500,000 pennies. The woman seemed to be lost for words at his proclamation. Then she laughed at him as he actually thought that they had time to count all of those pennies for him. Anders laughed right along with him and continued to plead with her to consider the request. He added that this collection was quite precious to him, and if he didn't need the money, he would keep it with him forever. At his insistence, the woman agreed to call her manager and present the case before him. Dealing with such a large number of pennies was definitely going to be a challenge for the bank staff. Would the manager accept Anders' request, or would he turn him away? Come on, article. Why are you doing this? And this article is according to ian.claireandjamie.com. So I only know Claire and Jamie telling the truth. I really don't. When the manager walked out and saw Anders, his face lit up with recognition. It turned out that the manager knew Anders quite well. This certainly turned everything in his favor. Seeing a familiar face really eased all of his concerns. But the question was, how would they even count all the pennies? Certainly the bank staff wouldn't have enough free time to count each and every one of them. It would take ages for them to do it, but the reward could benefit Anders and his family. Anders had been a very loyal customer of the bank for a long time. That's why the manager was so familiar with him and wanted to help him out in any way possible. Anders was in luck because the bank really valued their long-time customers. According to the manager, they were happy to help Anders because he had been doing business with them for a long time. Their amazing customer service was the reason that they didn't turn him away. Finally, Anders was going to know how much he had actually collected over the 45 years. Once they had so would we, I think. Once they had the green signal, Anders and his companions started bringing in the water jugs one by one. This was a sight to behold for employees who got a respite from their boring workday. Everyone excited gathered around to watch the first few jugs being counted. The first order of business was to break open the plastic jugs. This was done by turning them with an axe and a hammer. The whole counting process took 5 hours. Each coin was put through a coin counting machine until the final amount was revealed to everyone. Look, article now. Once all the coins were counted, it was revealed that Anders had saved up to a grand total of $5,136.14 just by collecting pennies for 45 years. This makes it a saving of $114.14 a year. While it may not seem like much, it was quite a lot for Anders. Considering he had collected all of this just by picking up lost pennies from the streets, it was quite impressive. While it must have been quite sad for Anders to part with his beloved collection, at least he had a huge sum of money. What was he going to do with it? Again, the pennies came up to $5,136.14. What was he going to do with it? Fortunately, the money came at the right time as Anders had some dental bills to pay. He ultimately put it to good use by paying off those important bills. If he didn't have this money, he may not have been able to pay the huge sum. Through sheer coincidence, he was able to pay off the bills without a hitch. Even after paying the bills, he had some cash left over, which he used to arrange a trip for his family. The rest went to church donations. You know the church had to get their 10%. Anders collected small pennies as a symbol of faith. In fact, his pennies strengthened his belief in God even further. Instead of having a greedy motive, he took it as a divine gift. It was simply a reminder that someone up there was looking after him. While it may not seem like a lot of wealth for Anders, it was everything as it turned out. A penny a day could someday amount to a total of $5,000. Hey, a penny a day can I can't even get it out. A penny a day can sometimes amount to a total of 5K. Hey, it is also a reminder for everyone of how little things can make a big difference. Years and years of hard work and well wishes resulted in an amazing outcome for Anders. Who doesn't like getting 5K at once? Anders was also able to make the most out of this payout. Not only did he pay off the bills, but also went on a fun trip with his family.
Where you go to the ball?
Sometimes reality can be stranger than fiction. Author Anders' story is a great reminder that if you do something with devotion and good intentions, you'll probably reap the benefits sometime in the future. All it takes is a little faith. As mentioned above, coins can be of great value depending on their ancientness and their rarity. In the next story, a woman who found an ancient coin when she was a little girl got arrested because of it. Oh, Lord. I will get that. That's going to be the next story on the No Audience Podcast. Okay. Wow. So what y'all think? A penny a day could lead you up to 5K, honey. A penny a day could lead you up to 5K. So, thank you all for not listening to the No Audience Podcast. I really appreciate it. It's your girl, BeeSparrow, BuzzzTweet Talk Radio. Next time y'all see a penny on the ground, you better pick it up. Okay? Shout out to the CUC. It's your girl, BeeSparrow. So let me know what y'all think about this. Like, comment, subscribe. Not just to my YouTube channel, but come on over here to my podcast on Spreaker.com. BuzzzTweet Talk Radio. Follow me there. And in return, I'll do the same. It's your girl, BeeSparrow. BuzzzTweet Talk Radio. Holla at y'all, girl. Okay? Okay?
BuzzTweet Radio.